Good afternoon, traders. Welcome to Trade Setup in the live stream for the 30th of January 2017. Hope you all had a fantastic weekend. I'm assuming some had a bit of a long weekend there with Australia Day Thursday and then taking the Friday off just to relax. I had a good weekend either way. It was quite relaxing and quite nice. So I hope we all enjoyed ourselves. Now you can see on the screen, just for any of the newcomers, we'll go through the general chat before we get started. You got the top left-hand corner. You can join us on Twitter. Join us on Facebook also. Just like us on Facebook and follow us on Facebook there. Or you can just join us or subscribe to the YouTube channel, which is down in the bottom right-hand corner. So generally, we're going to be looking at doing these streams at 12:30 on Monday and 12:30 on Thursday, around those times. So it's going to be more related to, we're going to have a bit of a chat today, but it's going to be more related to just different trades on the ASX. Probably just kick it off with what happened overnight and what's sort of the themes in the market at the moment. But yeah, they're going to be more devoted to chat about trade. So just be prepared when you come in. For anyone that's watching it, if you wanted to chat about something, just put it into the chat. Put the code in there. You can also send through charts. Don't forget. If you can't make it to the actual stream, but you wanted something to discuss, just send through an email. Send it through to support@tradesetup.com.au. We've got a few people send through a few things, which is great. So it's always good to see what you're looking at, and even just put through a bit of an analysis if you want, and we'll just chat about it. Whether I agree or not, doesn't really matter because everyone looks at things differently and they trade differently. So but it's always good to have someone's opinion. All right, let's get into it. So what we're going to look at today, the Trumpinator, and I'm not the first, I think, that said that. You can get on, just Google pictures on Trumpinator, and you'll see quite a few popped up there, which is quite interesting, quite amusing too. But the Trumpinator effect and what the current view of the markets in the currencies and what they're looking at. And we know there's been a bit of a move in the US dollar, and there's obviously talk of rate rises. So we'll discuss that a bit going forward, and just where the currencies are placed and what the potential for, whether it's a pullback or a further rally, what there is a potential and what sort of risk we've got, and what the currencies are actually picturing or factoring into the markets at the moment. And we're going to talk about Yellen and Trump going head to head. So there's going to be a bit of a clash, and I think she's first on his agenda. So he'll be going at her, and I think I read an interesting article over the weekend too. Well, the rest of it pretty much last night while watching tennis, which if anyone watched that, was a good match too. Yeah, interesting article. So on them going head to head, because it's sort of got not opposing opinions, but what he wants to do. She could be hampering that, or the Fed Reserve could be hampering that by raising rates. So we'll talk about that a bit. But firstly, what we'll do is just jump into where the markets are at the moment. Bit of a belting today on the open, down 64. Didn't expect that after what happened on Friday night. Friday night wasn't a big night, obviously. The US don't seem to be wanting to go down just at the moment. They're edging down. There's no big profit taking. But yeah, I think it was a mixed bag. The futures finished up on we look at the S&P, the E-mini. I think they finished up a few points, but the actual index itself on the SP 500 was down only a point or so. and the Dow was down slightly as well. So it was a bit of a mixed bag there towards the end, probably more towards a flat night, oscillating in between gains and losses for the session. Europe was a bit of a mixed bag as well. I think FTSE was up and the DAX was down. But again, I'm looking at the future, so I don't actually know exactly where the indices were, because the futures take into account. I mean, the indexes, especially on the DAX, they close might be 1:30 our time or something like that, or 2 o'clock our time. They close earlier, so it's about mid-session on the index for the US session. So the futures actually go right to the end of the session as well, till 8 in the morning. So they take into account, so I'd rather look at where the futures close. They're taking into account what's happening in the US as well, which could happen sort of the second half of the session or towards the end when there's a big sell-off or big rally. So whereas the index don't seem to, they don't get that move occasionally anyway. So getting sidetracked there, but yeah, not a massive day. I think the US dollar found a bit of weakness, and you see a couple of the currencies. Said the pound. I read news that the pound actually backed off from, was it 5 week highs, but the actual session from the start to the end of the session, start of European session, the pound picked up slightly, not so much, but it was more just again grinding higher than anything. Euro was a bit the same. The Aussie was a bit the same too. So more from start of European session around 5 p.m. Melbourne time on Friday or 6 p.m. They were grinding high, a bit of a sell-off in the US session and a bit of a bounce back. So the US dollar found a slight bit of weakness, but nothing too dramatic. It's still holding these highs. And again, it's all coming down to Trump and the policies and what's happening there, which we'll take a quick look at later. So if anyone's got opinions on Trump and the Trumpinator, love that word anyway, the Trumpinator, just chuck them in the chat. So yeah, let's take a look at, start off with the ASX. It's struggling, to say the least, just today anyway, but we've spoken about this quite a few times. Get the XJO up. It's at 5,600. So if this can hold, we touched down there, what was it, a few days ago? Was that Friday, Thursday, Wednesday, down on Tuesday? A bit of a sell-off for a couple of days. Monday, Tuesday, sold off, and then we picked up the rest of the week to finish for a gain for the week. Yeah, we can actually see that. Let's just take a look. That's a weekly chart. Get a bit closer to this session. You can see that it was a bit of a gain for the week. So it wasn't too bad all in all. We've been looking at this 5,600 level. We did touch down there, just bounced back off. So whether or not today we're going to, well, the next few days we may see a sell-off and a push below 5,600 or a bit of a washout. We don't know. And again, just looking at the weekly's starting to roll over. So just expect a bit of a washout there, but just just keep an eye on things, what's happening. But yeah, either way, it's big day today, big sell-off today, which is obviously a lot bigger than we're maybe taking it, trying to factor in what could happen in the US and could factor in a bit of a sell-off in the US. But it's typical of our market to plod along when the markets are going good, but sell off hard, and half the time we preempted a lot. So it's, whereas the US tend to, no holds barred when they go up. They just can take off and just grind high against all expectations sometimes. Whereas we tend to try to factor in ahead of time, which is makes it a bit hard some days. But generally, just keep looking at your charts and what they're saying. For me, that's there's nothing set. If we turn around from here and just hold above 5,600 and then start taking out these highs at 57, say 10 or 20, then I think we're gonna that high low on the major scale, and then we're looking towards 58 and through that up towards 6,000 on the longer term, which pretty much I think this weekly chart is starting to grind higher towards that 5,600. May just get a couple of bit of a contraction in here further on the weekly, take out 56, hold the lows, and then off we go again. But we'll just have to see. The next few days will tell. Let's take a look at there's not much more to add on the intraday action. But yeah, belting on the open, which didn't expect that. Really, the futures were pointing towards about a 10 or 15 point open lower. And it was, a Friday session we finished here. We're in that oversold mark, but we're right up at this 56, say 5,700. And then it just opened up, continued oversold, and just went bang straight through a couple of support levels. Not a major level, but all in all, this is a half an hour chart. So just looking at this, this is a key level, and this is what we want to take note of for any technical trading anyway. When we look back, if we just remembering what we're thinking about on this ASX, whether it's going to go through 56 or not. So what are we looking for? We want to see action on the lower time frame. This is a daily. Action on the lower time frames, it's going to suggest maybe that 56 is going to hold up, or what's the price action saying on the lower time frame charts? Now, just by sticking to the 30-minute, you can look at the hourly, maybe the 4 hourly. I think the 4 hourly is getting closer to the daily chart than anything else, so you don't get too much information there, whereas the hourly and the 30-minute do. And you're just looking at the most recent price action, say last, this is a weekly chart, last 4 weeks, or the last 10 days, 15 days or so. So just remembering, this is what we're trying to see. Is it going to hold up 56? Because the premise is if it holds up there, we're starting to just hold those high lows and then pop up through 58.50 and on to 6,000, or are we going to roll over through? Is this going to be more of a major lower high at the 57.20? We're going to look down at the 30-minute chart. Now we've got a key level here really that broke. So we had that contraction up. You can see on the half an hour chart that pushed down, built a high low, washed out this this level. If you can see that in the chart, washed out. It was around 57.06, which really that moved down, contracted up, built a major lower high at this point, and then we rolled down to these lows, which was 56.07 thereabouts. That's when we touched down at 5600 on the ASX. Sorry, we pushed down and just washed out these lows here. So I got ahead of myself then. And then we contracted up a bit, made another low at 56.94, and then rolled over and made those lows. So that was quite a savage sell-off on the 30-minute chart anyway. And then we've contracted all the way back up, washed out this high. We can see here, pulled back, built a higher low. So we had this leg up all the way back up to this resistance level at 57.20, 57.15. I think the XJO is probably about 5700, 5710. And we retested there. The thing is, what we can see and what we take note of is, like when we look at any of the equity charts, we've had that sloping downtrend. So that's holding. That means, to me, is contraction. We started to just break out of that, just above that. As we tested, then retested this up towards this level, we have made a little lower high here. But to me, that could be an initial indication where if we do roll over, we may start holding a higher low above this 56.10, 56.05. So there is some indication we are well oversold down here. It's a bit hard to think when you're stretched and extended to the downside like we are, that this thing could just keep pierce straight through 5600, say 56.10, and just keep going. Because you got to get a bit of, you would expect anyway, maybe a bit of a bounce, and then you get some further selling come in when the market, anyone that's really willing to sell down here, to me, on a half an hour chart, you've got to have your stop 57.19. So you're looking at what, 80 point stop. That's a bit too big for me anyway if you're shorting the market, especially when you can turn around so savagely sometimes. So we could be looking a bit of a range trade between 57.19 and this lower 57.10. All right, so we're looking for evidence. It's a bit too early yet, but maybe evidence that this extended market's going to start holding some lows and start building some higher lows and start working a move up, engineering a bit of a move up, especially after washing some of these support levels out. So the longer term, we've had that big move down. We pushed up, just started breaking out those highs when we pushed up here. That was on Friday night, I think. Yeah, the Friday night session. And we started roll over, washed out a few of these lows, and that could be that more major on a daily basis, that major high low that we're looking for above 5600. All right, so it's early days yet, but there's something to definitely keep an eye on. Or we could just do some longer term contraction. We don't know. We could just be bouncing between those ranges. So really, off this 30-minute chart, we're just trying to see signs of maybe that daily pattern playing out and that support zone holding. Does that make sense here, guys? What we're looking at? Anyone got a different opinion on that market there? While I have a sip of coffee. Oh, I just remembered too that if you're looking at this through YouTube, that you can actually just remember that you can change the quality of your screen by clicking the little wheel on the bottom right corner, clicking quality, clicking 720p, and that will just adjust the setting there. What's everyone else thinking on the XJO, the ASX there? Bulls, bears, a bit of a neutral stance at the moment. I think definitely if you're looking at just the daily chart, major weekly support here. That leg's probably was getting a bit extended up here, and you can tell we've had that bit of a correction lower to 56, and that got extended to the downside on the daily. The weekly is still rolling over. This could get this type of effect. Roll over, a bit of a bounce, and then roll over deeper. We don't know. Always something to keep in the back of your mind when you're trading it. If you're trading just the XJO, or if you're looking at getting in some bigger stocks at the moment. Um, but yeah, I think we're coming to that point where we could easily just hold this level here and then start continuing higher. Deep enough correction. I'll look at the strength of that is deep enough. You could get that divergence if you look at that, with a higher low on the stochastics. Yeah, we'll just see how that pops up. Well, let's get into it. If there's no one saying anything about the XJ, we'll jump into the currencies now. So looking at this, we'll just start off looking at the US. So as a proxy for the US dollar, actually we've got, let's just quickly look at, this is the US dollar on the ASX, the ETF. I don't know, I think we've spoken about this previously in the past. Just look at that doesn't look too bad, but that for me, for my liking, that correction there, so just recent correction down from those highs, is quite deep. And then that, if you're looking at it this way, so we're just trying to get a view of the US dollar to start with. Yeah. So with some good reporting in the US, it should hold the market up, but I think a lot of that's, like I said, been factored in. We'll see how it goes. What was I doing here? Just drawing a chart. So just trying to get an idea of what the US dollar could be doing. A bit of a view on that. We've had a look at this before. So you've got a resistance level up here. We've had that deep pullback, built the lower high, and then we started holding these lows, which looked quite good. It is early days, so this could be, again, another higher low in here. We're coming off an extended level on the you can see that, yep, you can see that. Extended level on the stochastic, extended to the downside, still holding a higher low. So potentially this is a higher low. We're going to work off and then build. But the thing is, what's it also looking on that's holding prices down potentially is a more major lower high. Does that make sense there? So what from here from this move down, if you just take that leg down there, if you can just see that, so that's that move up. Supports down here. We've got two things that could play out in my mind. If we're extended here, you want to see a bit more of a build, maybe a deeper correction, and then pop through that high up here, and then you say, okay, this major low is the one that's winning the race. The bulls are starting to win, and they're holding that market up, buying in at high prices, and that US dollar is going to kick on up through, that potential double top or that lower high there, more major lower high on a weekly basis. Or we could just see again from here. If you see this, if we just go back, so that's scenario one, or we just get a straight out, a bit of a correction, and we start holding some more lower highs. So that's evidence of sellers starting to step in, all right, which could take us easily straight through this support, and then straight down through this major support when we'd expected a more major rollover, which you could be looking at that leg from there, potentially all the way down, just extending that leg down, and that's the resistance level there. Extend that leg down just to get an idea of where it could, that's horrible, where it could pull up short. All right, so we give ourselves a bit of a zone, which is a decent sell-off in the US dollar. If that's the case, then the current news is really that the US dollar is pushing higher. So what I see when we talked about Trump and Yellen, so we go. I guess everyone's been following the news. We've spoken about this quite a bit. The market has had a bit of a bull run since, has a great run since Trump won the elections. It was on the back of obviously his inflationary policies, everything playing out that way. Obviously, the market always gets ahead of itself, factors it in, and looks towards the future. Doesn't just react to what's happening now. They more factor in what could happen. And if it doesn't happen, then okay, we get a sell-off. If it does happen, then we sort of factored that in already a lot of times, and then you could get a grind higher if everything plays out like we expect. So Trump, from my mind, has got to, and this is talk pretty much across the board. He's got to start putting actions. He's sort of put his policies into action. and we start seeing some results. Now, the company reporting is probably one that's actually holding the market up. I think they're doing better, a bit better than expected across the board. But still, the market's appreciated. It's appreciated well enough that it's overextended, even taking into account those better than expected results. I think, I don't know where the S&P should be trading or whatever you call it, but I think it is a bit overcooked at the moment. So, for my mind, the risk is more to the downside than the upside, right? And even if he kicks in with all his policies and they start working through, it's all fine. We start getting, there's already inflation in the market. We talked about Yellen and the US Fed raising rates 3 times this year. So that's what they've already put on the cards. That's what they've already let loose. That's what they've prepared the market for already. So the market's looking to, maybe they factored in with the US dollar, this appreciation of the US dollar, factored in 3 rate rises. So again, the market factors in ahead of time. They're not waiting for the results so much. They're always looking at what Yellen has been saying in testimonies to the market. What is she preparing the market for? Giving a bit of a heads up. What's changing? What she's saying in her speeches, and it was all geared up towards 3 rate rises. So the market, the US dollars, started building through the mid to, towards the end of last year and into the start of this year. Had a bit of a sell-off. Obviously, that's probably profit taking. We don't know, but I definitely think my view is that you're talking rate rises. We're talking it being factored in already. So what's the risk to the upside? I think it's starting to get a bit stretched to the upside. That's my personal opinion. So with regards to the US dollar, if we start seeing it like what we were just talking about here, the potential for this type of action to sell off, then I think the overall equities which have reacted to inflation could sell off because they got a bit ahead of itself. But generally with rate rises too, and this is where things I guess start getting sticky and complicated. And you've got to think of what is a typical reaction to rate rises. Then you get appreciation of the dollar. All right, the US dollar should appreciate, but like we said, it's been factored in. They give you good heads up over the last 6 months, heads up to what the policy is going to be, rate rises. So with inflation and rate rises, it tends to be factored in the US dollar. So that's what I'm thinking that's happening at the moment. That's why we could be seeing more of this scenario than holding some high lows and kicking up. Because the risk is more to the downside, even I think on the US dollar longer term. And so that's obviously Yellen's stance. Now what's Trump's stance? Now he basically needs a weaker US dollar, and he's already talked about that. Having a go at the Fed before raising rates, and strengthening US dollar, having a go at the market or whatever because of the US dollar appreciation. Because he needs a US dollar more around these levels, or probably lower, for more accommodative and keeping inflation more likely to keep down. So not raising rates as such, because that makes the cost of his I don't know what is his policies a lot higher. So it just puts pressure on his policies really, which is not going to be good for him if he can't implement his policies. I think what's his major one? Structural change, or I don't even know what I'm trying to say here. Give me a helping hand. But one of his biggest policies is helping out. Was it the U.S. economy by? I'm forgetting that word. It's slipping my mind now. But anyway, I'm guessing a lot of you probably know what I'm talking about. Which either way, with rising interest rates, it's not going to help at all. It's the cost of materials or anything like that is going to be a lot higher. So yeah, that's he would much prefer, not so much a weaker US dollar, but the Fed not to raise rates. So that's why I think they're going to go at loggerheads. It'll be interesting to see. So we're really trying to get a view of who's going to win, I guess. Is Trump going to put in his policies, and the Fed is really just waiting to see what he does. Is it going to be less inflationary, what the market is factored in, or what's he going to do? Is he not going to do the complete everything that he said he's going to do, which means that the market's factored in a bit, over factored in things, and we're going to get a bit of a sell-off. And I think the Fed's just sitting around waiting to see what he does as well. So you don't want the market to get in a bit of turmoil, and then we're raising rates in the back of it, because that's going to put more pressure on the market. So it'll be interesting to see who goes. So what we'll do now is just click over to after all that talking, we'll get onto the actual currencies, what we're here for. Take a look at what they're saying or what they could be looking at. So we've got the US dollar, US yen. I'm not so much taking into account this as such, because I think a lot of that's got to do, from 13 to 15, more to do with depreciation of the yen than appreciation of the US dollar in the pair. And then we've seen this bit of a sell-off, but I think more what we've seen lately is appreciation in the US dollar rather than the yen. So if we just go back, but either way, that is a currency pair. You to trade it technically, and we're starting to get, that move up is broken a long time ago. That was more start of 2016. Then we got that big sell-off. So we're going to take into account what do we think is going to happen, with regards to the US yen, and how's that going to affect the US dollar and the rest of the currencies, if all linked to the US dollar. So I think most recent price action on this currency pair has got to do with the US dollar than yen, and we can see. Whoop, I don't like that. Let's just draw. So you've got a move up. All right, we're going to find resistance up here, and we've got a support zone at the moment, right down at that, what was it, 99, say 100 even, and we've got a resistance up towards 125.60. So we've got this major leg down, and if we start getting to overbought territories, extended to the upside, which I think we could, this could be more of a major, maybe it's showing us here, more of a major, well, there you go, major lower high on a long term, which means that this leg up has got more correcting to do. So from my eyes, from my view, I see that more rolling over. And if we see more evidence on the lower time, this is a daily chart, lower time frame, we've got a little double bottom here, which doesn't mean too much. You see that little double bottom there? We could just pop up, build that lower high around here, and then start working our way lower. If that's the case, if this level is going to hold, because we've also got that little double top up there as well, which put impression on the downside, just it's showing good signs we do get a bit of a correction. So it's going to be interesting. There's a lot of factors still to play out, but if we start seeing this market pop up, which I would expect, if we can draw that up, pop up, and we start seeing a bit of weakness like that, and then maybe a bit of a retest, and then I think this is the type of action we could see all the way down. And then obviously your next target's going to be, down towards that support or even through that support, and we get that big extension down, that good correction of this leg. So this up here, I'll just draw this up a bit nicer. Draw a different color. So that's your leg down, all right? And this is just corrective action for that leg down. So if that's just corrective action, we're starting to get stretched up here. We've got divergence potentially on the stochastics here. We're struggling to make new highs and take out this high and trade all the way up to 125.60. Then that could be a more major lower high. You start to see sellers enter the market, and we start to roll over, and that level would be taken out at 112.62. And then I think we'd be heading for maybe that longer term. See that move down? If you take that and sort of project that out, we're heading down. We've got to draw it a bit better than that, but we're heading right down. Does that make sense, guys? So if that's what's to play out, it looking like that's starting to play out, we've got obviously a fair bit of work to do. This is a daily chart, and let's say we've got a few more weeks to start seeing that pressure coming in on the US dollar. Sorry, on the yen. I'm assuming that could just start rolling over there. Does that make sense there, guys? All right, let's go over to just look where the others are placed. So I think from saying that and looking at that, the other chart, just remember that other chart, US dollar based, could be starting to see some pressure, coming under a bit of pressure, which is, I think it's more got to do with what we were saying before. There's more risk to the downside from my eyes than the upside. Let's look at the Aussie. Now, where's that place? You would expect if there's US dollar selling the Aussie to start appreciating. Now, let's just see where that's standing. The same with the euro and the pound. For us, what we tend to look at is overbought, oversold. Now, at the moment, the Aussie's got it's probably a few more, I think, people lined up on the sell side than the buy side, which that's a lot of people's opinion. Obviously, they're just sort of weighted to the downside on the Aussie, but it also would be a lot of fuel for a move higher, because you can see that this market's been heading lower for quite a long time, since 2013 even. Way back then, we built that lower high in 2014. sold off through 2015, popped back up. A lot of price action to the downside. So there's been a lot of people weighted to the downside for a long time. So there's going to be quite a bit of fuel if there is a correction. If there's a US dollar sell-off, there's going to be a bit of fuel for appreciation of the Aussie. So if we just draw up a few where we could be seeing support and resistance, obviously there's a clear one. We've got a support line, maybe a double tap off that, and that would start to be. Actually, I'll draw it. We'll just go through this before we start drilling onto the end. And you've got this major level. So what we can see, that's that push down. This was a key level. It still is a key level at the moment. And that's why it was at 81.75. So market's pushed down from that zone. We tried to bounce up, contracted a bit, held these little minor highs, and that's around that 73.81. Sold off, washed out of these previous lows, and that's not a strong move. When you wash it out and then bounce straight back, and then we took out those highs with this move up, then that's showing me that there's buyers coming in, stepping up to the plate and starting to come into the market, because you get these moves down and getting a bit. Let's just draw it in. There's a move down here, and then there's a move down there. That's a lot shallower than this strong move down, and probably, I don't know, if we go back, there might have been another strong move down, and you can see from the highs, another good move probably here, pop back up here, and then another move down. So either way, it could be running out of steam. That's what we're looking for, signs of this running out of steam. We've got a fair few things in place, which could mean that the Aussie dollar pops up. Buys, there's not a lot of buys, a lot of short positions, longer term, shorter term, whatever. People starting to still jump in short here maybe, and they might start to get washed out of the market. What I see on the daily basis on the Aussie is this little level here that just broke 75.23. It's a key sign that this move down and this level is going to hold. So if that's holding, we've got this low down at 69, say 6900, a high low building on a major time frame, on the daily, even the weekly, at 71.45, and that is going to hold, which would assume that these highs are going to come under attack. And then probably, let's just draw that out. Let's just draw the actual rectangle, and we'll change that color. So I'm assuming from there, by this higher low holding, or you're starting to get short squeezed out of the market, and maybe it retests that zone, rolls over, builds a higher low, but I think we can start seeing pressure built to the upside and start to look at maybe a bit of a squeeze of short positions. So that's got signs in it that the market could pop. And we just go through quickly the Euro's just popped up since we've been talking, actually. That's the 1 hour chart, but I think it's just popped up since we've been talking. But if you just go, this is the 1 hour, we won't bother too much with the day. Actually, we'll quickly look at the daily. Yeah, you can see here that it's a bit of the same. We're down at those, down at these lows. We've had a bit of a washout, so really I think it comes down to on a daily basis whether this is a key level up at 108.70. That's sort of that last ditch effort low, and we're starting to work our way back up to that level. If that's the case, if we are working away and we retest it, even wash that out, then I would expect, if I don't tend to think these markets can go straight from the lows straight through the highs and just keep going and grind their way higher. I tend to see, they wash them out and roll over. You get that few sellers come in where there's a bit of a break of that level, bit of selling, those first, as aggressive traders, I guess. Then we start holding at higher low, above this support zone at 105, say, and build that higher low and then start to push back up again. But I think you can see that it's tested. We had that push down, initial big sell-off, push down. That was way back in 2015, end of 2015. Yep, popped back up, retested it. We had to pop back up, and then we've gone back down and washed it out, and we're starting to lift off there again. So there's obviously buyers stepping in at 104.30 at this support zone. Now, whether it's enough to kick it up, we'll have to see. But again, if there's a US dollar sell-off, you'd expect that to start grinding higher, even washing out that, and start to see buyers, happy to step back in. But again, we'll see how that goes, because there's a bit of a few problems over in the euro region as well. Look at the pound, see if that's showing any signs. Another, again, just recently popped up on the hourly chart. Actually, let's go back to the hourly on the euro. You can see let's push up. We're just drawing this support. So you can see that that support's holding higher lows. Yeah, holding higher lows, high low here, produce that leg up to the highs at 107.72. Then we've started to roll over, and maybe we're starting to hold as another major high low just in here. And that's 106.60. So if that's the case, that's a high low. We're getting a bit extended on the upside, so something definitely to look at. We may get a bit more contraction longer term on the hourly at least, and hold some hourly high lows and then pop up through like we have here. Bit of push up, extended, pull back, high low, bang, straight up, another high low, and just keep going, working our way up. We'll have to see how that goes. I think there's definitely the move up from these support zone is still holding. If this holds at high low, we need to see a bit of work done up here and start to roll over and retest this zone. Essentially breaking out of that move up, breaking through this rising support. Look at the pound. Let's go to the daily. Again, that's sort of been down on its knees a bit, beaten down a bit. You can see there's a talks of Brexit coming out. So I think we spoke about this a while ago. It has to come down to I think it was the High Court voted, it has to go through Parliament, which in essence you'd think if it's going to be tough to get Brexit through Parliament. If that's the case, and this the pound has been selling off, then you would expect that to start bouncing back. So that would be interesting. That means a bit of selling into US dollar there as well, buying pounds, selling US. But we can see there's been good support down there, and just with this break up through that level, if you can see that 124.09, the market's definitely heading south. We've got a key level, anchor level really, that's 134.60. Here when the market contracted up, roll over again. We contracted up, we rolled over, and then we've got a little minor level. It's more minor than anything else at that 127.68. So it could hold below here. We start working some lower highs and then rolling over and just attacking this 120.33. But to me, that looks like it's getting a bit of steam on the upside. We'll have to see on the daily as well. There's a few factors where could be a bit of pound buying and US dollar selling. If that's the case, we'd expect it to go straight up through 127.86 and up to this 134.50 zone. Retest there or even higher. We'll just have to see how that plays out. But yeah, that's looking. There's some signs, certainly some signs there. Nothing's on the pound is quite. Each currency is different, but they are showing that longer term they've been heading south. The euro's been heading south, probably with that appreciation of the US dollar. Pound's been heading south. A few other reasons, but also appreciation of the US dollar. The yen, US dollar has been appreciating recently, so then maybe that's getting extended to the upside. So I think there's a few factors playing up together where if we do see that risk and that jolt to the downside on the US dollar, which could see these currencies pop up, which I think in turn could see a bit of sell-off and profit taking in the equity market. But yeah, there's still a lot of water to go under the bridge too, and we'll have to see how that plays out. So anyone got an opinion on just what we're talking about there? I think from my point of view, we've spoken about the Trumpinator and Yellen going head to head. I think they've got two different agendas. Obviously, Yellen wants to keep inflation under control, and they're looking towards raising rates, especially if the inflationary data keeps coming out in line with what they're expecting. Then they probably have to start looking at the first rate rise and another one, but they're projecting 3. Now that's obviously not good for what Trump wants. He's not going to like that because it's going to put his policy implementation under pressure. It's going to make it a lot harder for that to work out like he expects, and he's not going to look as good. His ego is always a big thing too, I think. But yeah, so it'd be interesting to see who sort of wins that battle, and whether Trump can keep this rate rises from happening or keep inflation down. I don't know how it would happen, but really, if he starts, everyone's expecting inflation. So if he does play out like he expects and he does put all these plans into place, then we're going to get inflation. Then we're going to get rate rises, and we're going to get this. So it's really going to be a bit of a battle along with the US dollar. So, but I do think that US dollar starting to see a few cracks appear. We might get a bit of a bounce in the near term, but I think longer term, it's looking like anyway from looking at those three currencies and the US yen. And where they're placed at the moment, where there is a bit of there's more risk, a lot more risk for a US dollar drop than a US dollar continuing the rally. So I think and there's more opportunity on the downside too. All right, guys. Well, any questions on that and just what we've been speaking about there? You really got, as you can see, if you can't tell, those coffees are kicked in. I'm up to my third already. I'm loving it. Chatterbox today. Had a good sleep on the weekend too. Market's still down over 60 points, so anyone want to whack in if there's no questions on just what we're discussing, anyone has a different opinion on Trump and what could happen, what could play out in the US dollar? What do you reckon there, John, with your yes, what are you saying, good reporting in the US? I'm expecting that to, if that's going to hold up the market for the short term anyway. Agree with you there. And then what are they going to be looking towards? It'll be interesting anyway. All right. Anyone want to chuck in something to chat or something a stock to look at? We've got a few here. A few under a bit of pressure today, as you would expect with the market down so much, down 60 points. There's some that have kicked on all right. We've got BRM, which is just creeping back up towards that 36. So I'm umming and ahhing. I'm thinking we've got half off already at around that 30 mark, I think it was. And we've got our exit on the second half around that 29 and a half, just below this low. Because I figure if it doesn't take out the highs from here through 36 and starts taking out those lows, I think we're going to get that contraction lower, just contraction of this leg up, and we're going to get a bit of profit taking, and we're happy just to take it in and lock it in and see how we go. Oh, well, there you go. Forget everything I said there, John. Yeah, I think with the ASX, I think we're not in a bad position on the ASX because we have reacted quite a bit already. But yeah, it will be. It just depends on the seriousness. If there is a bit of a correction in the US, how hard or fast they could go, and there's always bears out there that are willing to talk a crash. The market, I think, US equities are doing okay. They're too good for a crash. I can't see what's going to trigger it. I mean, apart from just talking it up. So I think it's maybe longer term, a bit of an initial sell-off and a bit more contraction and controlled contraction more than anything else. If it's going to be the case with the sell-off. A2M, we talked that up. We'll get onto that one there. Yeah, so BRM will be happy if that kicks on. Yeah, so be it. We get more in, lock some more gains in on that second half. If not, take it off, call it a day on BRM. We've done all right. I think we're up currently at 30. What is the market? 33. We're up about 45 to 48% on that second half anyway. Locked in 31% gain on the first, so that's pretty good in anyone's terms, I guess. A2M. Let's put it on a bigger. This I still really like. It's probably more comes down to a weekly chart. Oh no, I can stick to the daily. Why it looks good. Let's just forgo. Actually, no. Bit of indecision there. All right, so to draw that up. See all that chart there. All right, we can obviously see that market. It's pretty clear. Holding higher lows, higher low. We've got the initial say push up from here. We produced that leg up, contracted back down, found support there in at 140. More high low, retested those lows. I like drawing it a bit straighter there. Push up, retested those lows at 170 and produced another leg up here. We're contracting down at the moment, so it'd be interesting to see if we just hold that and we do perk up, which I'm expecting this to produce that stronger push up through, say 245 to 250. I'm expecting that to just go pop, but we may just contract. But I still do think this is on a short-term scale. If we just draw that, it's more of a key level just down here, just below $2. So it's popped up, held a lower high, and that's for this move up. Don't forget, we're just looking at that clear, and you can see there's a lot of factors showing me signs that this could just go and pop up through 225. But if it goes through this support, it was at 198, 195, say, that low down here, if it pops through there, I expect maybe we just may extend, wash out a few of these lows, and then pop back up. But definitely, for my mind, that market's heading up, holding those higher lows, and I do expect that to maybe a bit of contraction, but hold again these minor high lows up and just putting pressure on the upside, maybe taking out that 225 and then working its way out through 250. And sometimes they can just, this market can just go pop. You can see there's a good few solid days where definitely good opportunity to take in a few, taking a bit of profit, take a bit of profit off the table as well. And longer term, you can see that move there is really putting pressure on the upside as well. So there's a few factors there. That initial break, pull back into the zone, holding a higher low. This is on a weekly basis, major higher low, and that's probably that continuation trade through here should take us up and through 250 to new highs. Does that help out there, John? SLR, we'll look at that too. Silver Lake. There's no doubt on the weekly basis too. Well, it's working its way off that support zone there. If we can get, obviously the key highs are some miles away, 380 to $4. Yeah, the zone up there. Long way off there. So if that's the case, you're going to have a key resistance around that $1 as well. It's probably going to provide a bit of resistance, but it's the same as these other levels, which are starting to get targeted now, up at 80, maybe a bit of a pullback into the zone. If we just go back down to the daily, so we said 80, so it's touched up at 80, pulling back, but you can see this price structure is looking good. And we've traded this before, but I think it's on our radar at the moment as well. I've got an eye on it, but yeah, it's got some work to do before for me, but definitely you can see that trended up, holding again higher lows, a few minor, more of a key one here at was it 50 cents? And then you got that continuation break straight through those highs there. If we just draw that up, and you can see that, yeah, it's probably, I would find that hard to trade because I'm not seeing the action I want to see, a bit of indecision, and then buyers stepping up to the plate again, more of, move up to that resistance, say, oh, and that's up here, say 62.5. Draw that up. So what I'd like to see, for me, I wanted to see that type of price action, and then buyers still stepping in and a bit of a power play through. But the thing is, it just went bang straight through 62.5, straight through resistance to new highs at 80, and that probably coincides with that weekly resistance level. A lot of the times when they are close, they're creeping up on that a nice solid resistance level. They're sort of at the top end of that range between, what was it, say 15 cents to 80 cents. So the top end of that range, it just powers into the resistance, and then you might get that sell-off, which we're seeing a bit at the moment. But we're going to be looking now for this trend to hold. We could be retesting to 62.5. We may contract a bit lower. And then if that's the case, you see a bit of this price action. We want to see buyers starting to step in, maybe retest a bit of a washout and that type of price action. That would be ideal. Bit of, you get that high low, you still get some lower highs in play, bit of a breakout. Everyone expects everything to go south, but we may get a washout. We may just retest. Don't know what's going to happen here around this 62, even a bit lower. And then we start popping through some of those highs, building that higher low, and then you'd expect buyers to just flood into that and really work it through 80 up to $1. And that dollar level we spoke about before. So it could be a bit of fat in this trade. Does that make sense there, John? I hope so. All right. Anything else before we tie it up or wrap it up? AJM's another one we've had from, it was actually just the other day, I think, so we're 17.5. good report today, which has just kicked it on. It's not up a lot. It's only 5%, which is only a cent from where we got in, but I think that should start really bringing in the buyers, and you can see these high lows are holding. We're starting to take out some of these little smaller levels at 16.5. We popped up, bit of a pullback, and that's why what triggered us to get in. You got risk clearly. You can pop your risk at 15. If you're a bit more aggressive, you can put it right down here. It's a key level, more of a key level, especially if we pop up and then we just roll over and take out these levels. But I figure if we take out 15, then it's probably over. We'll make a deeper correction, but that's definitely looking quite good at the moment. You go to the weekly, look at it lifting, big powerful move up here, and it's washed out enough of these buyers that have built up through here, and it's spent enough time holding higher lows that that's really starting to drag in some more buying. And we could just really push up to 27.5 and beyond. We'll have to see how that plays out. There's still, it gets up. These things tend to be a bit spiky as well, so it could easily spike up, get sold off, but who cares? But if it gets up towards 27, we've locked in a good little profit on that as well. With minor risk, minimal risk. So that's looking good. Ajax is not looking the best, but it's holding up there. What else we got? SAS has been doing nothing for long enough now to be interesting. AHZ, we've got that one from around actually we've got it up here way back when. With risk below here, nearly got stopped out below 32.5. It's popped back up and it's starting to hold. It's showing some really good signs. And that's called Admitus. And if you go back and just go do a bit of research on this one, and it's because of news flow, and it's got some quite good news flow. So you're seeing buyers are stepping in. If some other report comes out, you're going to get a solid reaction. If it gets up to 54, that would be awesome. So, it's got a lot of potential to get higher than that as well. You can see where that selling's taken it all the way down to sort of 30 to 40 from way up to $1.70. So, bit of good news flow and some more buyers stepping in, and knowing that story could really drive AHZ a lot higher. But we'll see. BMC, the bugger's really maybe out to be a fool. That doesn't matter. That's the nature of the beast. So there's a few goodies here. Web around 1050 or so, somewhere around here. Popped up, got us in, did nothing for a while, and just took off the last 3 sessions. So that's good. Draw in a bit there. So that's looking good. I'd like to see a chance of getting up to $12. Going on a bit stronger, and it's done well against the tide today. Down 60 points in the ASX. This is still holding up slightly, so it's a good sign. I think the weekly's got a bit to go. You look at the daily, starting to get to that extended zone. So if we get a chance to lock it in at least, if it's looking tentative, I'd rather just lock in a break-even trade and just try to see if it can spike up and give us a chance to take some off the table. We'll see how we go. Anyway, that's probably about it for today, guys. We'll call it a day there. Like I said, if you can't make the stream, if you watch this later on, please feel free to send some charts, and if you want to discuss something and you won't be able to make it to the stream, send some in. Anything you like, we'll analyse it. I could be right, could be wrong, but it's always good just to hear a different opinion, a different view on the market. Like I said, it can't hurt. If you think it's rubbish, you think it's rubbish. That's fine. If you can get something out of it, that's good too. Every time someone puts something up for me, I'm always finding it interesting too. It's good just to see a view, something you might have missed, something you sort of forget when you get stuck within a bit of a rhythm and you start, straying from the course. So people putting up other stuff is always going to help you just keep focused, I guess. Or can anyway. So thanks for joining us, guys. It was great. We'll do another stream on Thursday now. So there's no stream for the next couple of days, but we'll have a video that we'll put up. So just keep an eye out. And any ideas that you want to go over for videos, send them through to support@tradesetup.com.au, and we'll endeavour to do something on them as well. If it's something that's too complicated for me, don't expect me to do a video. I can't understand it anyway. But yeah, we'll definitely get onto it. So thanks for joining us, guys, and we'll speak to you on Thursday. Have a good day.